Hey y'all, this channel is dedicated to providing the best educational content for personal trainers so that you can provide the best results possible and make the financial living that you strive for. My name is Keegan Hanks and I own Human Movement Experts, a concierge personal training business here in Austin, Texas. I've been a trainer for over 8 years working with various different clients ranging from professional athletes to celebrities and predominantly general population clients. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can stay up to date with weekly videos, sharing all the secrets that I've learned along the way. Today we're going to discuss the best ways to help your clients achieve nutritional success, whether it is building muscle or losing fat. I want to start with a quick disclaimer. These are all recommendations that you can make without any specific training towards diet or nutrition. You do want to be mindful, though, that these are all suggestions for clients, and making direct recommendations can open you up to litigation. Make sure you're just sharing your knowledge and opinions, but be clear that it is from your own personal experience and not a direct recommendation for them, especially not saying you're going to cure or fix anything. Leave any type of specifics up to registered dietitians and nutritionists who will have legal authority to defend themselves if anything were to go wrong. I have 2 separate nutrition certifications focused on body composition and sports nutrition, and over the last 8 years, I've worked with clients for weight loss and muscle building. So I have experience to talk about nutrition, and my clients feel confident coming to me. It's just I am very specific on these are suggestions and not recommendations. I'm not a registered dietitian, and I'm not a nutritionist. This is especially to keep in mind when your client may or may not have any medical issues related to diet and nutrition. No, throughout the entirety of this video, I'm going to be referring to diet purely as a representation of what clients' habits and what they're eating throughout the day. Dieting and diets have gotten a bad rap of being mainly focused on weight loss, and I just don't believe that that is appropriate or very good for clients. So I'm going to try and delineate that and focus using diet on a general habit and eating process behind people's diet. Now, before we get into it, I have tailored this video and this channel around working with general population clients, as that's where I've found the most success making good money. In some ways, general population nutrition is harder, but then in other ways, it's significantly easier, and we'll get into that later on in the video. But let's jump into the first step. The first step is assessing your client's current nutritional standing. Before making any recommendations, it's crucial to understand where your client is starting from. You'll need to ask questions about their history with dieting. This can give you the key to what you will work best for your client. Questions like that, questions like what have they tried before, what has worked or not worked, how are they currently eating, what are their intended goals for their fitness, how they enjoy eating, like do they prefer carbs, do they prefer fats, what times of day do they prefer, and then also their current activity levels. And last but not least, how much stress do they feel throughout the day or through the week? This is going to be really important, the stress portion, because there is a term called allostatic load. That's basically the entirety of stress for clients, physical and mental, that is accrued throughout the week. And it is going to play a big part in doing hard things such as dieting and weight loss, because if we overload a client's perceived stress, and this is going to be different for everybody, a neurosurgeon is going to have a lot of stress cutting people's brains open, but also a stay-at-home mom is going to have a lot of stress keeping children alive. They're different stresses, but they're perceived to be extreme on either case. I don't know very many neurosurgeons that would be comfortable spending an entire day at home with a bunch of kids, and I don't know very many moms that would feel comfortable doing brain surgery. They're very different, but they're also both difficult in their own rights. Think of allostatic load. Essentially, think of allostatic load like progressive overload in the gym. As you continually train week over week, you're building more and more fatigue in your muscles and your body, and eventually you need to take a break. That's the same thing throughout the course of the week. There needs to be some relax and some recovery from the there needs to be some relaxing and some recovery from the stresses of the week. Some ways that we can alleviate that, we'll talk about later. Making dieting as simple as possible for your clients is always going to get you the best results. Another really big tip for this initial interview process is to use language that your client uses. Listen to the way they're speaking and answering your questions and mirror that language and that vocab back to them. Try not to correct them or go into any educational conversations at this point because they're primarily wanting to feel heard, as this can be a very difficult conversation for many. Make sure you're there and you're supporting them and listening to them and kind of mirroring back any sort of vocab that they use. Now, don't let them go completely off the reservation and start talking about things that aren't really related and saying crazy stuff that's not helpful. Allow them to kind of speak their mind and what they feel like will work best for them, and that's going to give you some direction on where you should take them. The second step is setting some form of nutritional goal with your client. Once you understand where your client currently is in terms of their diet, the next step is really setting out clear, achievable nutritional goals. These aren't specific macro totals or totally changing their current diet to something completely different. I found over my years of working with hundreds of clients that totally changing their diet overnight can lead to just as quickly defaulting back to these old habits when some form of stress comes up, when that level of allostatic load that they can accompany throughout the week has kind of. The second step when working through this nutrition with your client is, once you understand where they currently are, you can set some next steps for where that you want to take them. Clear, achievable nutritional goals is where you want to go. These aren't specific macro totals or totally changing their current diet. I found that if you start to change people's diets completely overnight, the moment more stress comes up in their life, they're going to quickly default back to old habits, and we're trying to develop good habits here. So think small at first, and you can always build up from there. What I do is I always start with setting a goal of adding things into their diet prior to removing anything. This is usually going to push the less desirable food choices out and promote better choices naturally, without leaving your client feeling like they have to constantly without leaving your client to constantly feel like they're saying no to things that they love over and over and over again. If you've ever competed, you know how difficult that can be in the final few weeks of competition. Since we are working with general population clients, we're looking to build lifelong habits. That's going to be something we need to keep in mind when we are looking to develop these goals. And that's why I don't suggest macro tracking, as it can be helpful as a learning tool, but it's not something that I don't know a single trainer or athlete that maintains macro tracking every single day for long periods of time. It's usually focused on one specific goal. The other thing to keep in mind is research has shown that people who start a new fitness program are naturally going to start making better food choices. And at this point, I let them go with what they feel like they need and what is kind of their body telling them. And if they ask me questions, I start to respond to those questions and I'll educate at that point. But I stop making any goals and recommendations, and I'm purely going to start focusing on the strength training and let them kind of figure out their nutrition on their own. The higher level you are in terms of being an athlete or trying to get more extreme results, the more focus you need to put on your diet and on your recovery and on your fitness, and it becomes more like a job. But when we're working with general population clients, this isn't the case, and we need to moderate stress and the mental focus that's required to maintain whatever goals and nutrition programs we're giving them. Step 3, it's something that can happen along the process of interviewing the client and kind of working with the client for the first couple of months, but it's starting to educate them a little bit about general nutrition principles. I am an avid believer of not being dogmatic about any specific nutrition protocol and finding what works best for the client. One of my biggest pet peeves when talking to other trainers is trainers that have found something that works for them and has worked for a couple of their clients, and thinking that that's the only way, whether it be keto or vegan or carnivore. These are all tools that we can use and kind of manipulate to work with different clients. But just because it works for you and a few of your clients or a few of your friends doesn't mean it's going to work for your general population client. The nutrition and dietary needs of a athlete or a trainer or someone that's working out constantly and fitness is their life is going to be very different of Susie, who walks their dog once or twice a day and works out with you 3 times a week. They're going to be different goals, they're going to be different requirements, and we can't just have a one size fits all. So when we're going to educate our clients, I highly recommend having some form of like repertoire of articles or research papers that you can share with your clients to help support the recommendations that you're giving them, but also looking at it from a more balanced approach and trying to push protein up, as most general pop clients have a hard time eating enough protein to sustain this new strength training program they're doing. And then from there, basing carbs and fats and recommendations around that off of what they prefer and what they enjoy eating the most. Obviously, you need a at least bare minimum of fats for them to survive, but you don't need a bare minimum of carbs. So you can play around with different suggestions for this that works for them, and that's going to get you the best success. Again, this is all about developing habits that work for your client. The fourth and final step of kind of going through this nutritional journey, and it's constantly going to be evolving, is regularly monitoring their progress and making any adjustments or suggestions after the fact. You may need to take a more hands-on approach at this point, giving them more education, more guidance if they're not seeing very much success. But in most cases, when I'm not seeing success with a client and kind of giving them the reins to take care of themselves, is when I'm going to start suggesting a meal delivery service. It's going to take it even further off their plate and going to make it so simple for them. My favorite one that I found and I've had success with recommending to clients and then using myself is Trifecta Foods, primarily because I can order protein only packs and separate it out on my own and add a little bit more to the pre-planned meals. It gives me a little bit more freedom, and I generally am eating about 200 grams of protein. So it's a lot easier for me when I'm dieting or when I'm going towards any specific goal to have a little bit more protein just pre-set aside for me to use whenever. Make sure that you're building flexibility into any form of suggestions with your clients. Make them feel like they have choices, but this is really going to depend on the client. Some clients really love choices. If you give them too rigid, they're going to feel stuck. And some clients, they need that rigidity to stay honest and to stay true to it. And the last thing, their nutritional needs may change over time and the plan should change accordingly. It can be very helpful to use tools such as food logs or tracking apps to monitor any progress and identify areas for improvement, such as daily Starbucks coffees or other things that people aren't necessarily thinking of, but are pretty significant in calories. These are kind of a last-ditch effort just because it does add so much more complexity. With an athlete, that's something that I would look to do pretty much off the bat. But with Gen Pop, it's something that I reserve for a last-ditch effort. Like, always celebrate your clients' successes along the way. It helps keep them motivated and engaged with you, and that's going to improve your retention, and that's going to improve how much money you're making and how much results you're getting with your client. A lot of success with dieting and training with clients is about stress management and being able to look at your client in the moment and kind of understand where they are at. Sometimes you're going to have to be a little bit more lenient with them and give them more space to mess up. And sometimes you're going to have to be a little bit more strict. It just depends on where your client is and what's happening in their life. All we're looking to do is build something consistent for them where they can do it for an extended period of time. Building that consistency and resiliency with your client's goals is going to help them feel successful, and it's going to get them motivated to continue. Being too strict, being too militant with a meal plan will increase the chances of your client quickly falling off and losing sight of the goal. It's important to keep in mind that each of your clients are very unique and they may require a different approach to your nutrition. Stay open-minded and willing to adapt to their individual needs. You need to stay flexible and you'll win with your client. That's it for today's video, folks. We hope this gives you a solid foundation on how to guide your clients through their nutritional journey. Remember, nutrition is just as important as exercise in achieving their fitness goals. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fitness tips and guidance. Until next time, stay fit, stay healthy, peace.